name, height, and weight then.
Matthew Engelke. I'm 5'10", and currently holding at 205.
Okay, and go ahead and tell us a little bit what you do and how you got involved in fitness modeling.
Well, right now, a big thing of what I'm doing is I'm focusing mostly on the aesthetic part of bodybuilding. So, I've always been a fan of powerlifting, but that's really just a small part of what I do. I've been fitness modeling for a few years now. However, professionally, probably only about 3 years. Nothing really big, just some book covers and a few things here and there. Then a lot of stuff with my friend who's a photographer. Let's see. How did I get into this specifically? So, would have been about 2011, 2012. I'd started really getting my physique dialed in. Didn't weigh much. I think when I was at my heaviest, lean and heavy at the same time, I was about 170, and I was in a GNC shopping for supplements, and a guy pulled me aside and asked me if I competed, and I told him I didn't, and he said, "Oh, well, here's my card. I'll hook you up with a coach, and if you'd like to compete, we could probably even get sponsors for you." And so I ended up contacting the guy, and he got me. He kind of showed me the ropes. Didn't do a lot of coaching for me because I kind of already had my diet and my workout plan in place, and I did a show, and I kind of got my feet wet. I wasn't a big fan of competing, but I tried it a few more times before I decided that I'm just going to focus on the fitness modeling end of it. Having spoken with a few pros like Matt Christianer and some other guys that are in the magazines a lot, like David Morin, David Kimmerly, James Ellis, and after they kind of told me that I don't really need to focus much on competing, I decided that okay, well then I'll just focus on just the fitness modeling end of it. And then it turned out that a mutual friend of mine, she was an agent for all kinds of talent, singers, actresses, actors, models, and she got a hold of some of my pictures and insisted that I go to a modeling or like performer networking event in Chicago, and hooked me up with a lot of different agencies. And that's when I got exposed to BMG, and I even spoke with an agent for BMG out of New York, and we were set up to do a contract, but I still had a year and a half of college left, and I found out I was going to have to work a second job in addition to modeling, so I just kind of put that on the back burner and focused on graduating, and now here I am pushing again, trying to get dialed in again and see what I can really get out of my physique. So
you started off, you were at like 170, so you're like, what do you weigh now, 205?
About 205, yeah.
So
yeah.
It's a decent amount of weight then
over 7 years. It's about, I think the last time I calculated it was roughly like 5 to 6 pounds per year. So it's pretty consistent, nothing crazy, but when you're staying lean, trying to stay lean the whole time, it's a pretty good bit.
I was going to say, yeah. Staying nice and steady gains.
Yeah.
Okay. Today you trained chest and back, but go ahead and take us through your workout, the movements you did, and what you liked about each of those movements.
Yeah, today most of the focus was on chest, but I also did some high rep movements for my back. I tend to break up my back into 2 separate days, rep days and intensity days. But I started off with my chest day. I did about 5 to 6 minute warm up on the bike. I find that all of my lifts are between 10 and 15% stronger when I start off doing some cardio. Engage all your different muscle fibers, and then with that heart going, you get more vasodilation and just better mind-muscle connection. So then I started off with my bench, just your typical flat bench. I worked my way up to my working set of 315. I did 2 sets of 5 at 315, and that's really just to stress the skeletal system. A good compound lift is a great way oftentimes for starting off a workout. Really primes the muscle, gets the blood pumping. After that, I moved on to incline dumbbell bench press, and I don't do a lot of weight with that, and I really focus on slowing down and making sure it's a good range of motion, because flat bench press is mostly going to be your lower pec, and if you're lucky, across the middle of your pec. And it's always work to get that top of the pec to really come out and get that boxy look. So I like to do something that's going to focus specifically on just the upper pec. And then after that, I did a superset that another trainer friend of mine showed me just recently, where it was superset between push-ups and then it's cable flies, and that just hurts so much. It's great for really, you can really push yourself, and you can cheat a little bit so you can still keep relatively the same weight moving and still get those last few reps out. After that, I moved on to another superset between dumbbell overhead pulls and pec fly on the machine. I like that one again because, with the overhead pull, the dumbbell overhead, I'm going to get that focus on the upper pec and also down the center of the pec, two places that the bench press kind of neglects. So when I superset that with pec flies, both exercises, they focus on parts of the muscle that don't normally get a lot of work, and also stretches those same parts of the muscle. So I always get just an amazing pump from that. So it's hard for me to skip that on a pec day. Afterward, I moved on to high reps for my back. I superset between a front lat pull-down and then a low row, close grip. And that's another one of those where the superset was to pre-exhaust my back. Oftentimes doing back workouts, your biceps will get tired long before your back does. So supersetting something where the first exercise it's a lot of back and a little bit of tricep, and the next exercise is a lot of back and a lot of bicep. So the back is getting constant work, whereas the bicep kind of gets a second to relax. After that, I did somewhat wide lat pull-downs. That's another one of those where I've never had a problem getting depth to my back, but getting that V taper, that width, that's something I always have to focus on and constantly work towards for my lats. Then I finished up with some wide low rows at high reps, just 2 sets of 30, and it's just another one of those where it's just all that movement really just forces the blood into the back and into the lats, and I feel it's so tight and get a nice pump off of that.
Now, did you say when we were? I thought I said, do you have an arm day on its own, or do you?
I don't normally.
Okay.
I don't normally. I keep an eye on my arms to see where my definition is in my bicep and in my tricep. And usually leading into a shoot, if I know I've got one coming up in, say, a month, then I'll have an arm day once a week. But normally I don't have a day set for arms. I might clean up at the end of, say, a back day or shoulder day, do some bicep curls, tricep extensions, but I rarely ever just focus on the arms. I guess we all have those few muscles that just grow, and on me, it's my arms. My triceps and my biceps will grow all day, but it's those core muscles that I have to really focus on. The pecs, the lats, the shoulders. So.
You're lucky in that aspect. I guess everyone has something. Sometimes it's calves for people.
Yeah.
Go ahead and tell us a little about how your experience with your ab training and stuff, and how that works with your martial arts background.
Right. Yeah. So my background for anything really athletic or physical started. I had a strong background in martial arts. I started at a young age. I really got into it at about 14, 15, and what was great about it was that I was so gung-ho that I was doing, as part of my martial arts training, I was probably doing about an hour of abs almost every day of the week, and it was like that for probably 6 years straight. So I'm sure that really helped with my foundation for my abs, because I find now that really I don't have to do much for abs, and they just kind of pop out on their own. But it's a style of martial arts where there was the reason why there was so much ab work was because they acknowledged that nobody's fast enough to never get hit. So a third of all of our training was getting hit and toughening up the body. So there was a lot of exercises where you'd get smacked in the stomach just over repeatedly with sticks, bricks, whatever, or one would be where you would take a bow staff and you'd place it on the wall and then you just had to push into it, and the goal was to break the pole. I've only ever seen someone break it twice, and those were monsters of men. But that's the whole goal, is to make the bow actually, so it starts to bend, and you hear once you start hearing that cracking, you know your abs are getting really strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. But too, that martial arts background really helped when it comes to focus in the gym. I see a lot of people, they'll do headphones to zone out. For me, once I lock in and get on the lift, you can see in some of the videos, before I lift, I'll close my eyes and I find my center, and then so that way, I'm at that point, there's nothing else going on around me. I don't hear anything else. I don't see anybody else. It's just me and the weight. And I joke with people. I tell them it's my moment of Zen, but it really is. So.
Yeah. Wow. How about, so now, what would diet be like, Bud, for your off season, as opposed to now getting ready for like shoots and things? Okay.
Well, so my diet, I do a lot of intuitive eating, and I also eat specifically for performance. So there'll be plenty of days where I'll have a meal and I think, I might be a little bit more hungry, but if I know I'm not really going to be utilizing that, then I don't continue to eat. Because for a long time I did count my macros, I did journal my food, but after doing that so long, I'm talking probably 4 or 5 years straight. I've got journals just stacked up that are just completely filled with nothing but nutrition information. And after doing that for so long, you get to where you I can kind of feel what my body needs and what it's okay. Well, is this hunger a need hunger, or is this hunger I'm just hungry because it's sugary and fatty and I want to put it in my body? So normally, if you want to talk about like a classic like off season, I try to eat mostly clean, 4 to 5 fruits and vegetables every day, and that alone really limits what I can put in my body. When I'm getting the right amount of fiber and the right amount of protein, it's hard for me to fit much more in terms of extra carbs or extra fats that I don't really need. I'm eating a lot of fish, a lot of baked chicken. I'm lucky that I work at a place where most of my lunches are lean steak, and I don't have to pay for it. So that's nice. But then, so getting ready for a shoot, though, usually, depending on how much time I've got, I prefer to have at least 10 days. But if I have more time, usually I'll start 3 weeks out. And 3 weeks out, what I do is I cut out all added sugars. So, because I'm no more cheat meals at 3 weeks out. Even if I think I can afford them. And then I really focus on what fruits I'm having. I tend to switch from having, oranges and apples a lot to more berries because they tend to be lower in sugars. And then once I'm about 10 days out, then I really cut my carbs down. And once I'm 5 to 6 days out, I'm down at roughly 40 grams of carbs. So 40 grams of carbs plus plenty of water, that really helps me dry out. And then the day before, so 36 hours before I'm going to shoot, I just start carbing up, and I'm talking, red skin potatoes, white bread, rice cakes, peanut butter, just a lot of carbs. I try to stay away from sugars, specifically try to stay away from fructose. That's one of those where to metabolize fructose, it takes an extra few steps that the body prefers to not take. So, your body preferentially will metabolize glucose before fructose. So I try to cut as much of that out of my diet as possible, knowing that any extra fructose I get was probably just going to go straight to my fat cells, and I'd prefer to drain those as much as possible leading into a shoot.
Okay, so you will actually deplete for a shoot then?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Lately, I've been experimenting too with my aldosterone hormone. So basically, my salt intake is what I'm saying is that I'll have 2 weeks where I'm taking in a lot of salt. The idea being that I'm going to change the output of my aldosterone hormone. So my body, lots of salt and lots of water over the course of 2 weeks trains your body to constantly be flushing out, flushing flushing salt and flushing water out of your body. And then the day before, I'm taking in little water and little salt, but my body's continuously flushing still. So that helps to really get me that dried look, and really helps, just dial me in.
Now, do you cardio for any of this fun, or?
So, like you saw you'll see in the video that I did. Well, you didn't see it. Okay, but I did. Before we started videotaping, I did a little bit of cardio. I work out between 4 and 5 times a week, and most days I start off with 5 to 8 minutes of cardio, and that's about as much as I do. Now, I probably should do more for heart health and for lung capacity, and I've slowly started to incorporate some more. The biggest issue is that I was a runner like probably 12, 13 years ago, and since then I've gained 70 to 80 pounds, and trying to get back into what I was used to doing it's kind of painful, holding that extra 80 pounds, 70, 80 pounds on my, painful on my knees and on my shins. But I'm slowly working back into it. I was happy. Just last week I got a mile and a half without having to stop. So I count that as a win. Yeah.
Running, huh? Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
Now I noticed with your workout, you're pretty fast, like in and out, are these how most of your workouts? I knew we were talking, which probably made it longer this time, but on average, how long are your workouts?
I try to keep my workouts, it really depends on what I'm working. Preferably, my workouts won't be much longer than 90 minutes, excluding leg day. If I'm deadlifting or if I'm doing leg day, then it's going to be 2 hours, because I always like to have a few sets of powerlifting, and I usually use the rest times of a powerlifting set. So between 3 and 5 minutes, just to get to your working weight. If you're, for example, with my deadlift being close to 500 for my working weight, that's roughly 4 to 5 sets just to warm up. With 3 to 5 minutes in between each set, you can see how very quickly that's going to turn into 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before I even do any sort of accessory movements. So.
Yeah. Okay, well, very good, man. Well, we will follow up with you later in the year. Anyone you'd like to thank?
Like to thank? Well, I got to thank my girlfriend, Lily. She supports me through all this most of the time. She competes too, and we take turns being fussy about our either competing or our prepping for shoots. So, usually we had one situation where we shot together, and the day or two leading into it when we were both carb depleted, that was, I don't want to say nightmare is the right word. I probably shouldn't say that. I don't know if she would agree with me on that. But yeah, I'd like to thank Lily. She helps me out a lot. And also my parents have been really supportive too. My father has only just recently got on board with the idea after he's seen some of the progress that I made, but my mother has supported me the whole way through. I mean, even when I was literally scrawny, I mean, at 150, 155 pounds when I first started lifting, still got the support, so that's always nice. Yeah.